Hi, good morning, afternoon, whatever time it may be that you're watching this. My name is Max, and I'm gonna be talking about the Fort Bliss Cemetery. I've only been there once, and it was pretty clean. I mean, everything was pretty organized. It looks pretty cool. It's because all the gravestones are white, so it kind of stands out. What I remember the most, it was the service. Everything is pretty organized, paced to well, because everything has to be like at a certain thing. And I remember how they pulled the flag, the little triangle, little box, the salute, moment of silence, and at the end they fire out the guns. I think that's it. But yeah, everything was pretty. I had never seen anything like that just in movies, so it was pretty. It was kind of cool to see that. So Fort Bliss is here in El Paso, and then there's a Fort Bliss Cemetery. Um, and according to Wikipedia, but I kind of had to like fact check that. And so, according to the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, it is well over 82 acres of land, but just a cemetery. And it's a final resting place for American soldiers. Um, uh, I don't know if many of you may know this, or maybe you do. Texas, California, New Mexico, I think Nevada, maybe I don't know. But I just know Texas, California, Mexico used to be part of the Mexican territory. So that place, I mean, what is now Fort Bliss, and most of Texas used to be Mexican territory. And after the Mexican American War, we won those territories. Um, and then during another war, which is World War One, Fort Bliss became a training center for the new troops. And then finally, it was declared by the government that it should be a national cemetery. So Fort Bliss is in El Paso, Texas. It's in the Fort Bliss Military Reservation, and it was first established in the 1840s. But at the end of the Mexican American War, we took Texas, California, New Mexico, and the other state I don't know. And so when we gained those territories, for Mexico, it was like that place. What is now Fort Bliss. It was like a very strategic point because it was close to the Rio Grande, and for them it was kind of like a big thing. And then after that, after another war, which is a civil war, Texas was a Confederate state, so it was under the command of Robert E. Lee, which he then surrendered after the Civil War was over. Later on, they found records. Well, according to the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, the records indicate that 16 burials have been made prior to 1890. So what I'm guessing is that as people kept dying there, fortunately, they just kind of buried them there. They had like a little place for them to bury them, but it wasn't like a big cemetery. So later on in 1914, the status of Fort Bliss was changed from infantry to a cavalry post. And at the time, they only had 2.2 acres of land to be a cemetery, which was around 800 graves, and it was all closed by a stone wall. Later on, as the years kept going for the first war, they kept adding more land, and they added 2.24 acres of land, which increased the capacity from 800 gravestones to 2,400 gravestones. And in 1936, the Congress wanted to make it a national cemetery, and they wanted to begin construction in 1936. But for whatever reason, they didn't have funds for it. They didn't have the money for it, and they began the construction later in 1939. But according to the National Park Service, Fort Bliss National Cemetery's significance rests in its position as one of the 7 national cemeteries established between World War One and World War Two, specifically in 1934 to 1939. So that means that during those years, there was other 6 cemeteries across the U.S. that were made specifically like the cemetery for a national purpose. Uh, and two, I think it's yeah, 2 websites I found that not only non-U.S. citizens are buried there. It says that in 1944, it's the Chinese government or authorities had decided that one of their Chinese, I guess, citizens that had died over here during their training. They're the cadets. That they should be buried here in what is Fort Bliss, the cemetery. Which I didn't know that, but according to this, there's around 52 Chinese cadets that they're buried there, and there's also a German prisoner of war and a German civilian scientist who have been conducting research at Fort Bliss, which I didn't know until that day. Later on, I'm guessing that uh, they mainly took care of it, like took care of the park's maintenance. But it says that as of June 1973, the Veteran Administration took over the operational duties of the cemetery, which means that they do everything. They wash the plants, they cut the shrubs, and they do all the arrangements, which I remember, kind of, because I don't remember seeing anybody that wasn't wearing a suit, and like an army thing, the badges and everything. Like everybody that was doing the ceremony was dressed. They had the little hat, everything, because they do everything. They do the arrangements. They even drive the car to the funeral, and they basically do everything. Which I remember reading that in order to have the bird and everything, you have to contact them first, and then they set up everything. Which according to the El Paso Times, about 15 burials a month take place in the cemetery. But also, I didn't know this, that eligible for burial there, in addition to the veterans, are the wives and children of men in service and the wives of veterans, which I didn't know. I thought it was just the veterans, and that's it. But apparently, if you're a veteran's wife, you can also be buried there, which is kind of fascinating. But yeah, so in conclusion, kind of fascinating to know how time and basically war changes one place to become a cemetery or a fort. How we act have different consequences on even land. And yeah, have a good day.